Except the second I click back on here, it's going to advance, isn't it? Nope. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm the voice of dog. And about 6 months ago or so, I tried to do a marathon to raise money for surgery and car expenses. It was mostly successful, except for the fact that I didn't give myself enough time to prepare for it, and I really burnt myself out for a long time as a result. There were a lot of factors going into it, but stressing myself out by working too hard too often was definitely a factor. I haven't binge worked on a thing like that since college, and for good reason, as it seems to kill me.
You really did give yourself burnout, yeah?
I actually burned myself out. I really did it.
Burnout percent run, here we go.
Yeah. That having been said, it's been 6 months or more, and there was a significant chunk of the top 100 list that was left unfinished. So without further delay, here are my favorite 25 video games. How's audio?
Well, sounds great on my end.
Cool. Don't worry, number 25 is a murderer. It's Anthology of the Killer by the Catamites. A collection of increasingly ambitious short stories. Anthology follows main character BB, who just wants to write her damn zine about weird stuff in town. I've been talking about this game a lot, so you already know the score, but you know that bizarre things keep happening to her. You know she keeps running into a tall man with a red mask and a black cloak. I can't tell you how refreshing this game felt when I played it earlier this year. Like, who needs gameplay when you have witty and culturally incisive commentary on a variety of topics? And I mean that sincerely. I can actually sacrifice all the gameplay in the world for good writing if I find it compelling. I think the bar is kind of low for games, so. The chapter format of this game really works in its favor. You've got each chapter being a short story from 30 minutes to an hour and a half long. Each focuses on a different aspect of our culture. In these chapters, BB will educate you on the structure of society, our lingering cultural obsession with violence, and how old something needs to be for it to be nostalgic. Answer: about 30 to 40 or old enough to smell like death. This game should be required reading for anybody looking for a subversive and macabre comedy, anyone looking to genuinely laugh like they haven't in a long time, and to really think about how much blood is inside a person. I mean, really think about it. This is my favorite The Catamites work to date, so I implore you to support the dev by purchasing it for less than the price of your lunch. So yeah. sorry T-Sot, it was it's my favorite it's my favorite game this year, and it did penetrate the top 25, but just barely.
I mean, yeah, 25 is, like, pretty good, let's be real here. Like,
It's up against my favorite games in history.
Yeah, anyone's top 10 is going to be, like, stuff that's, like, personally meant a lot to them.
Yeah, and I think I had to put this one in this portion of the list because it does mean a lot to me now, this game. I think it's very poignant for its time. It has a lot to say about the state of our culture, and I think that's also doing it in a fun way.
Mm-hmm. I am interested to see where the Catamites goes from here, because, like, you know...
Yeah, this has been like a 5-6 year endeavor for them, right?
Right. Yeah. Pretty good. There's not much else to say, really. It's a lot of fun.
It's just good, and I'm gonna be playing it like once a year now. Like, I'm gonna try and invite somebody different every time I do it to help me voice it, but I'm gonna try and do it every year.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to bring someone who doesn't know and have them voice people. Like,
yeah.
Doing that for the Tammy section one was so fun, because you always have to be, like, saying words until it magically cuts to a different thing, and you're like, oh no, wait, where was I? No!
And then you're like, wait, what is this word? Swimbofication? Wait, what? That's a word now? It is now. Next up. Tackling you for all your HP at number 24 is Front Mission 3 for the PS1. A real fun strategy series featuring futuristic bipedal robots and political intrigue. FM3 has you traveling across the world trying to secure a dangerous new type of bomb while uncovering a big conspiracy. This is probably the strongest of the franchise overall, though I have a soft spot for the plot of the first game and the gameplay of the fourth. The series revolves around Vonzers, the bipedal robots you customize and field during battles. You got the head, the arm parts, the leg parts you need to customize, as well as hand and shoulder-mounted weapons. The body part has the engine and determines how much output your mech has, so you have a weight limit to mind while customizing. It's really fun to zen out while shopping for new parts and figuring out what kinds of builds to attempt for each of your characters. There are skills attached to specific parts that you can learn, and they get extremely hype when they chain activate and deal ridiculous amounts of damage. You can see it in that... You can see Dennis dual-wielding his sniper rifles in Newbie's run. Dennis fucking owns. From Mission 3 in particular has a unique feature, a gigantic fake internet you can explore with websites from all the local governments, /arms manufacturers, /news websites, etc., etc. A lot of it is just world building, but there's a lot of neat lore and some actual rewards if you know where to look on the fake internet. I have fond memories of staying up way too late as a kid on fake internet. I can't wait for them to hopefully get to remaking this game. I don't know if that's still happening.
It probably might. I mean, it's still listed. So I don't know much about this game, but the one description I always got was like, oh, there's a choice where you have to decide whether to like hang out with your friend or not, and that dictates
the fate of the world.
The fate of the world.
That dictates what side you fight on in the conflict. It's really fucked up and funny just what a pivotal moment it is that you decide to go ride forklifts or don't, actually.
But you know, that only in the PlayStation era could you do something like that.
You can only get away with this on the PlayStation. Only on PlayStation. Sorry, Nintendo. You can't do this shit. Fucking Midas bomb. It was a gold bomb. It was a bomb that uses the gold atom to do a clean detonation. It gets around all the international treaties because it doesn't cause any actual fallout.
Yeah, I should get around to playing this one.
It was good. I liked it. Next up. Yelling at you to read the fucking manual is number 23, Tunic. This game extremely swept me off my feet right away by having a super intuitive mechanic of an in-game manual you piece together over time. The manual is how you learn how to play the game, but also how you... I'm sorry, this part of the write-up just says redacted over and over again, so you'll have to play it and find out. Yeah. Tunic was super successful for me because it got at the crux of people's nostalgia for Zelda-type adventure games. You figure it out as you play, but just about everything is more than meets the eye. It repeatedly gives you that feeling of discovery and epiphany as you realize small details about the world and how to interpret it. There's definitely some Dark Souls DNA in there as well that I found to be fun, especially in the bosses, but overall I consider it a must-play new favorite.
Yeah, this is a game that's you would spoil if you talk about it too much.
My write-up is very short.
So, I would just say go play it.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a nice, 10 hours of your time?
Or more. Could be more. Like, I took a good... I don't know, man. I took quite a while with it. Definitely more than 10 hours.
Yeah, and then you can go watch some fun videos.
Yup. Yeah. Alright. Happy 17th birthday, it's DQ3, Dragon Quest III at number 22. This was a formative RPG for me that I had rented and played before I could read all that well. The game definitely had a ye olde English translation that made it a little harder for kid me to figure out, but I really enjoyed just wandering around the world getting in the fights. I think this one in particular is a great starting point for DQ, because you get a full party off the bat and get to choose their classes. Some classes are a little better than others, and the goof-off or joker class is near useless until they hit level 20, or unless you've got some sort of wild scheme going. There's also a class change mechanic, so you can try to min-max your character a bit, but be warned it's a little grindy. I know the NES version the best, but I hear people speak highly of the later ones. It's been ported to a lot of other systems, and now you've got an HD 2D remake that is very competent. I kind of burned out at the end of my playthrough, but I still had a great time with it. The new content was very fun. Don't play it on hard mode.
Now, whose fault was that, really?
Chat! I'm blaming chat, alright? It's chat's fault.
That being said, would there be a reason to go back to like the original NES one?
At this point, if you're like newbie,
okay.
I don't know.
Because like, there seems to be a lot of cool quality of life stuff in that, you know, in the HD 2D remake.
There really is. It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Always blame chat, yeah.
Always blame chat.
Yeah, no, it was definitely still a, you know, it's a Dragon Quest, so you still get the classics of classics going on.
Yeah, it happens to be the DQ if you were around at that time.
It's the one that's still, like, constantly referenced.
Yeah, and like just the fact that even now you just have that remake. It's like it's still part of the public consciousness.
Yeah, you have to play it just to like get a sense of like history.
Yeah. Get a feeling for how games were like back then. Next up, melting their face off at number 21 is the original Hylix by Mason Lindroth. Now, I've talked at length about Hylix before, but I always mention how soothing the aesthetic is for me. It's the brand of weird I can get behind the most, and I find the first entry in the series to be a great 3-hour game. Now, a lot of the text is randomly generated, so it feels confusing at first, and you'll probably die, but the game doesn't punish you much for that. You go to the afterlife where you can teleport back to the world and try again at no cost or consequence. In fact, you get a nice little weapon for dying 3 times. The beginning is definitely the roughest part, but once you settle into the offbeat rhythm of Hylix, you learn to just go with the flow. Now, I like Hylix 2 plenty, and it's definitely worth playing. I just think I enjoy the first game a little more. We'll definitely continue to follow Lindroth and now Chuck Salamoni's work, who did a fantastic soundtrack for Hylix 2.
Did you say the dialogue was randomly generated?
Yes, it is. A lot of the dialogue is randomly generated. A lot of the nouns, verbs, and adjectives are completely random in Hylix 1. That's why it's
purely a purely a vibes game.
Yes, that's why it's so hard to understand. You're in the world of aesthetics. You're in the world of Hylix, which, if you understand Gnosticism, and let's be honest, dude hasn't gone to school for that.
Yeah, you know, I'll always talk about it.
Yeah, I always talk about the demiurge and the Gnosticism and these terms that I definitely know the meaning of. Let me just take a drink real quick to stall for time, and now, okay, no, you don't get to question that.
Up in order to really get into Gnosticisms.
We need to talk about Xenosaga.
Exactly.
Collective groan through the audience.
Have you heard
everyone stops watching immediately. God damn it. Fuck.
Have I told you about Jesus Christ?
Next up. Number 20 has been a fool. They're no good at this. It's Yaka A Zero. Oh, this is very loud. Tell me if you can't hear me anything. The franchise got real big in America in the last 8 years or so, and Yaka A Zero helped speed that whole thing along. It also got me back into this sort of open-world adventure game that I hadn't played since, like, Sleeping Dogs. The first game chronologically in the series takes place during the 80s bubble economy in Japan, where everyone is making and spending money at an alarming rate. Cosmic Kiryu is a Yakuza doing collections who gets framed for a murder he didn't commit. In trying to clear his name, he will punch thousands of men, play hours of mahjong, become the top disco dancer in town, and become a billionaire by cornering the local real estate market. And that's just the Kiryu side of the story, which is only half the game. There are so many minigames to play and get involved with, and so many funny side stories to run into. The game is just full of good content. The story in particular is very strong, even for Yakuza standards, and just a gut-wrenching crime drama with a lot of emotion and blood and betrayal. Now, I know people will disagree with me on this. I could easily see, for me, Infinite Wealth being somewhere on this list, towards the top, but the story is nowhere near as punchy as Zero, and the combat is at its best here. This is the one that I want to play over and over again.
Like, Yakuza is like a bunch of toys in a sandbox, and I just think like everything comes together as a whole the best in Yakuza 0. I mean, there's a reason this one blew up.
Yeah, there is a reason why it got so popular.
Yeah, also it can just be serious and funny at any given moment, and it still works in the overall whole.
It does.
And like, oh god, the boss fights in this game rule.
Boss fights are very good.
I don't think there's a single boss in this game that I absolutely hate.
Even like even just any fight, really, is just, it feels satisfying.
And you're like, your Black Knight or your like Book of Light in this one is just an old man who is really mad at you. It's great.
You mean Kuze or?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kuze. There he is. Next
Definitely
up.
wants that.
If you haven't played it, then Jesus, what are you doing? Please do. Oh yeah, you know what? That's another thing that I do like about Yakuza. They definitely go into the quote-unquote dregs of society and they humanize them. Yeah, they absolutely do that. The sex workers, the homeless, everybody in between. Yeah. Next up. Popped up at number 19 is Windjammer's Flying Power Disc. Fun story. I first encountered this game somewhere in a Cancun resort when I was a kid, probably 7 or 8. It was really simple to pick up. Throw the disc across the court into the nets and get points. 2 players throw the disc back and forth until someone scores. You can dive to intercept the disc or lob it into the air to force the opponent to move. If the disc gets popped up into the air, you can get underneath it to charge up and use your super. Highest points at the end of the timer wins or first to 12 points. Well, I played a lot of Windjammers at that resort over the course of a few days, and there was this kid a bit older than me that I absolutely could not beat. I do not remember taking a single set. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if he was French. Supposedly they are the Windjammers champions. Worst of all, I could not remember the name of this game until like 2014 or 2015 when I got exposed to Giant Bomb and I saw them playing it. Some neuron activated in my brain and I remembered. Flying Power Disc, the resort, the sunburn, the pain. This is my favorite fighting game of all time. A perfect 1v1 experience. Would recommend to absolutely anyone looking for a fast and fun competitive game. Play me at MagFest.
Honestly, yeah, I'm actually surprised it's not at EVO.
Right? Yeah.
It worked pretty well for EVO. Or at least like a combo breaker. They play everything a combo break.
Shout out to that one Thai Tuesday clip where someone manages to throw the disc backwards.
Huh.
Like in a super? Did it curve backwards? Did they score in themselves?
Now, was that Thai Tuesday?
Was it Thai Tuesday? The spin went backwards. That's so funny.
Didn't we meet playing this game?
Probably. I feel like we met at MagFest when Slow Beef went to your hotel to pick us up or pick you up, and then I was like, "You ever play Windjammers?" So I was probably at some point was just like, happened, I definitely at some point was like, "Hey, you want to play Windjammers?" And you were like, "What's Windjammers?"
Fun times.
Yeah.
Go to the Windjammers machine at MagFest, and you'll for an ass kicking.
Yeah, that's right. Meet me here in 20 minutes or less. Next up. No crying until number 18. It's Mother 3. 18? We waited, 18th. We waited a long time for this game. It was pretty worth it in the end. Originally a title for the N64 disk drive system that never came out. Mom 3 ended up happening on the GBA in 2D instead of 3D. They retained a similar style to Earthbound sprites, but really jazzed up the amount of frames and all the animations. Game just feels more fluid than it did on the Super Nintendo. Now, of course, the game released in Japan in 2006. We never got an official translation. There is a very good and famous patch available on the internet that came out in 2009, I think. I was in college at the time. It's kind of hard to talk about this game because you can go in so many different directions. It's a weird game with weird pacing that tells a weird story. In fact, that was part of its official tagline, strange, funny, and heartrending. Just full of gut punches and emotional moments, but a lot of laughs too. The Itoei sense of humor is definitely still there. The story focuses on a family and their twin boys, Lucas and Klaus. You get to name everyone in the family, including their dog, who is a player character. They live on a farm just outside Tazmily Village, a peaceful place where people help each other to get by without expecting much in return. But over time, Tazmily Village is invaded and transformed by the Pig Mask Army, the most adorable fascists ever! Look, they even have a Heil Pork salute. It's so... There's definitely some messaging in this game. There's definitely some sensitive topics and some powerful gut punch moments. Right away in the first 8 chapters, the family you named is torn apart, and Lucas just kind of has to deal with it. The pacing of the game is kind of wacky as the main character changes a lot until Lucas finally takes over in Chapter 5. But overall, it's a really unique adventure with some themes I haven't seen too many times in games. The soundtrack is absolutely wonderful and carries the game on its back. It really pushes the limit of the GBA's emulated sound chip or whatever the hell was going on with that system. Strange, funny, heartrending.
18.
Number 18.
To me this is like an absolutely strong contender for like
Number 1.
Yeah, like it's amazing. I'm surprised.
I had to really think about like the games that I really want to play nowadays and the things that I really got all my satisfaction from. And like, yeah, Mother 3's way up there. But it wasn't up there. In fact, you'll kind of see why it ended up where it did pretty soon.
Okay. Yeah, no, Mother, like, there's so much in Mother 3, like you said.
I would love to see a different translation of it. Like an official one. I would love to see them like say, hey, we acknowledge that this game exists and its content and its themes. And we can engage with that. No, we're not mature enough for that? No?
Never.
No? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it is a crying shame, really.
It's a shame, but we have what we have, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, this game goes, like, very interesting places. And it's just also still funny.
It's very funny.
Despite repeatedly punching you in the gut.
I'm just looking at Wes dancing right there, and I'm just laughing, because, God, what a fucking moment. Alright. Next up. Better than Mother 3, number 17 found a friend. It's Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. I had no idea what to expect of this series since I never played an Armored Core before 2023. This game blew me away. I already talked about Front Mission 3 not long ago and how much fun it is to customize your mech. Take that exact same system with a few more parts and more nuance, have it affect every aspect of your operation in a high-tension action game. From what I understand, Armored Core is not a series where you're playing the good guy saving the day. You're usually working for mega corporations doing their bidding, stripping planets of vital materials and minerals and leaving them dry, desiccated husks. And this game is no exception. The plot focuses on a struggle for a strange and precious resource called coral on the planet Rubicon 3. Early in the game, you come into direct contact with a large amount of said resource and start hearing a voice in your head, causing you to realize that the cocaine has sentience and its own will. You are mostly controlled by your handler, Walter, who clearly has his own ambitions and is getting you to carry them out, but things change after getting exposed to a heavy amount of coral and meeting Air, the new voice in your head. Choices split the path in this game, typically in subtle ways during missions where you switch sides during a battle. There are 3 different major endings, each one really interesting. The final ending is accessed on your 3rd playthrough, and folks, I don't usually stream games again right after beating them. This one was an exception. Absolutely worth a playthrough if you like big mechs and cannot lie. Customizing them to get the perfect build for a situation is a rush you don't get many other places. And when I got stuck, I turned down the game audio and blasted mecha soundtracks. Like all FromSoft games, you can do a little better each time on those tough boss fights, and man, this game had some good-ass fights. Beating Balteus for the first time was very satisfying, a game that will never get as much attention as, say, Elden Ring, but it absolutely deserves a look.
Yeah, no, what a way to like bring this series back, though.
This game's so fucking cool, I love it.
Because like a lot of people didn't like 5. So
yeah?
This is like kind of like considered a return to form.
Okay. Yeah, Jesus Christ, just an amazing experience.
And it's straight up just a beautiful game. Sometimes I just see shots of this game and I'm like, this looks incredible.
Yeah, the ice worm fight right there in the center, top center, is just wow. What a fucking fight that is. It's so cool. The sense of scale when you fight a big thing is incredible. Like, you know how much output you have on your mech because you put the engine in there, so you know how much power you've got. And then you find something much bigger than you that just knocks you away, and you're like, oh shit. You really feel it anytime you're up against a stronger opponent.
God, I'm just taking a moment to listen to the soundtrack. Well,
yeah, when it gets going, it's like, I didn't really appreciate the soundtrack that much, but it's very good.
There's like 2 tracks that stick out a lot. One is the mini boss theme, and it's the one that's playing right now, which is, I think...
I thought this is the Balteus theme, isn't it?
This is the Balteus theme, although
yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like generally Air's theme.
Yeah, I think it's Air's theme. But the mini boss theme is that one with that droning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. No, wonderful game. I'll probably play it again. Next up, an even more wonderful game. Perfect parrying number 16 is Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice, another FromSoft game. Back to back, baby. I can sometimes get behind what Dark Souls is going for. I played 1, 2, and 3 and probably enjoyed 3 the most, but honestly, I enjoyed Sekiro more than any of them. It's nice to play a game where you can make a character and pick your weapon from a staggeringly long list, but sometimes you just want your choices to be a bit more narrow. Sekiro is a character action game with a specific moveset that has a lost my place in the thing massive amount of utility. You are a shinobi. You can hookshot up to high places and come down on your enemies before they know you're there. You can sneak up on them and get insta-kills. You have a false limb that can be equipped with a variety of shinobi tools like a flamethrower, a spring-loaded firecracker, a defensive umbrella, a big-ass axe. But honestly, Sekiro is a game about sword fighting. You have all sorts of great ways to get around your opponent, but when it comes down to it, you have to put your sword in that guy, and you're only going to get there through intense focus and scores of attempts. The real draw here, haha, is that you can parry just about every incoming attack, putting your opponent more and more off balance until you can strike a killing blow. It's a gorgeous rhythm game you play by stabbing people. Sekiro is not an easy game, and even with iCat guiding me through it, I still had a tough time. The final boss is probably the toughest dude I've ever beaten in a game. It's a wild achievement I'll probably never top. One of the most satisfying victories I've ever felt playing a game.
A shinobi knows the difference between honor and victory.
That's right.
This game is just mechanical mastery at its finest.
Yeah, they made a system and they tightened it to the point of, I want to say, perfection.
Mm-hmm. Like the final boss of this game, there's like final bosses I like more for like several different reasons, like emotionally and like just pure satisfaction. I think this is the only one where mechanically I think it's the best final boss.
It's so, and I think is that Genichiro in the top right that I think that you're looking at? It's
yeah, that's
not. Okay, yeah, that's right before the final fight.
Yeah,
that's so amazing. That whole sequence.
Yeah, it's just why didn't they go back to this? They should go back to this.
Please make another Sekiro. I would love that. That would be so much fun. I would be so happy. It doesn't even need to be another Sekiro. You can just make another period game. I don't care. You'll still have the same. You'll still rely on parrying because that's the sword thing.
Also, it's just kind of refreshing. Like, there's a lot of games that are set in this era, but I don't think there's any that's kind of does it the way this game does.
No, not quite. Next up. Walking up to you while Joker laughing and exploding is number 15, Killer 7. One of those games you really need to experience yourself because nothing I say is going to articulate its appeal. The cel-shaded graphics are pretty timeless and scaled up great in the recent Steam version, and as I say that, I realize now that the problem with which we'll get to in a bit. Okay, yeah, thank you, script. Okay, thank you. The soundtrack from Danganronpa composer Masafumi Takada is also a big draw. Suda51's insane symbolist plot is also kind of a draw when it's not being too batshit insane or too verbose. 4 times a day! You play the Smith Syndicate, a group of 7 killers. Oh, hey.
You're telling me they put 7 people in this killer?
Thank you, Keen Green Bean. You play the Smith Syndicate, a group of 7 killers who seem to occupy the body of Harmon Smith. You switch between killers while utilizing their unique skill sets and weapons to get through missions and solve puzzles. That all sounds standard, but it doesn't really communicate how weird it is. For one, your movement is third person on rails that you control, moving back and forth and changing direction at junctions. Now, while doing so, you encounter the game's enemies called the Heaven Smiles, a group of ghosts that are also bombs that are ghosts? It's not clear what they are, but they're invisible until you look at them in first person and scan the area so you can shoot their weak point for a one-hit kill. That's the core gameplay loop, really. It manages to stay fresh with a lot of different kinds of smiles and weak point locations. And it's not always clear where you're going to aim, and the second you hear the maniacal laughter, you know one is closing in on you. It's low-key a bit of a horror game in the vein of House of the Dead, and I really love it for that. I played this in college when I was the perfect age for this nonsense plot. Suda doesn't know anything about American politics or Japanese politics, it seems, and that's kind of the focus for the game's story. Regardless of how you feel about it, you will never forget Killer 7. It's not quite on rails, is the weird thing. Like, you control where you go, but you run back and forth on the rails.
Yeah, it's strange. Also, when you like need to shoot down enemies, you're like hard stuck to your position.
Yes, you cannot move and shoot, so you have to stand your ground at some point.
See, I like Sudafy 1 games mostly because like it's just him. Like everything about it is just I don't think you can see it anywhere else because this is watching someone's id put on screen.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I've streamed this game multiple times, so I've said a lot about it.
Why is the best track in the game just in a random hallway? Why is there a gimp?
Why is there a gimp everywhere?
Who knows? Why are you shooting an anime girl with angel wings?
that one, she deserved that though. She had it coming.
Okay, that one, yeah.
Good night, child. It's time for your bedtime. Takes out, 120-meter shell, loads it into your giant sniper rifle.
Yeah, why are we shooting a hanging man in the testicle? I don't know.
That one I still don't know. I don't know why Greg Nightmare is there. Anyway, next up. Have you seen number 14 around here? Just turned 7 last month, short black hair, goes by Silent Hill. The original Hill was a formative experience for 12-year-old me, being the scariest thing I would ever have encountered up to that point. You play actually good dad Harry Mason, who just wants to find his daughter in a creepy seaside resort town full of fog and monsters. What follows is an increasingly abstract and dreamlike journey into the bowels of hell, and also the fringes of reality. Some wild shit happens in this game and is very rarely explained, leaving the plot interpretation up to the viewer. There's also a few ways to branch the plot and see 4 main endings, with an obligatory 5th joke ending where Harry gets abducted by aliens. I ended up seeing them all through my many, many playthroughs as a kid. Somehow, the game never stopped getting under my skin, even when I had memorized where all the enemies and scares were. The presentation was truly unlike anything I had seen before in a game. You basically flip back and forth between the foggy East Coast resort town and the rusted metal blood-soaked nightmare world when the plot calls for it, and every time the environment changes, you're just filled with this exciting kind of dread. Harry Mason will go to hell for his child, over and over again. Nothing unusual.
Nothing unusual at all. Yeah. No,
You're not a horror game person, I know, so don't worry.
Well, I like the horror games. It's just, what can you say about Silent Hill at this point?
I know. It's like, this is my favorite Silent Hill, though. Like, this is the one that did it for me.
I mean, yeah, like, Silent Hill 2 kind of takes over conversation a lot, but, like, Silent
It really
Hill 1
does.
is kind of unique, even amongst its... because 2 and 3 are, like, super different from each other.
Yep, they really are.
But, like, Silent Hill 1 is definitely the cult aspect cranked to 11. Yeah, no, I definitely one that's still fun to go back to, I think, just because of how unique it is.
Yeah, I did a not quite speed run of it once for 1 year. I did a marathon of it and did it in like 8 hours. It was a good time. Next up.
Yeah.
Number 13 jukes the tackle and scores! It's Pyre from Supergiant Games, the sports RPG / visual novel. I've done multiple streams of my playthroughs that you can find on my YouTube, as well as an entire in-depth LP featuring 3 blind players in a book format type situation. Just look up, that's right, Visual Novel Sports Club, featuring Ryudo, Minimat, and Turbo C. Okay, you got it there? Okay, we're good. Yeah, Pyre tells the story of the Downside, a sort of underworld you get exiled into from the Commonwealth, a dystopian city with a literacy ban that also happens to be fighting an endless, unnecessary foreign war. Your character is cast into the downside for the crime of literacy, and you're quickly drafted into a secret league of ritual keepers that promise you the opportunity to go back to the Commonwealth, all sins forgiven. The caveat is that you have to prove yourself by playing sports, which boils down to 3v3 wizard basketball. It's a fun system, but I see a lot of people get hung up on the movement. I honestly wish it were more popular so we could get an actual multiplayer scene going. Pyre ends up being a really interesting story about justice and social order. It's a Supergiant game, so you know what to expect. Great characters, unique gameplay, art and visual design that put most AAA games to shame. We have a long way to go as a society before we can top Pyre as a video game, and an experience you can't have anywhere else.
Yeah, as far as Supergiant games concerned, this is the only one I don't own and I heard the least about.
Yep, it really falls through the cracks. Look at that amazing play I have on the left. Look at that. Look at that fucking play. That's against the hardest guy in the game right there.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, no, I've always heard good things, and I hear it's also some of the procedural story stuff is really cool.
It's very interesting. It accounts for a lot of different possibilities you could have in character composition and team comp and all that shit.
And it's Darren Korb on the soundtrack again, which is always good.
Darren Korb, Ashley Barrett, Logan Cunningham doing a lot of voice work. Yeah, no, it's just an incredible production.
I listen to the Life Sentence track a lot. It's really good.
Yeah. The soundtrack is wonderful.
Yeah.
It even factors in as you lose. That's a great aspect of the game.
Yeah, this is one I really need to get around to.
Start your season today.
Yeah. Also, why is Waka on the top right there? I just realized.
That's not Waka. God, he's a lot better than that. He's not racist.
Okay.
He's actually anti-racist. You'll have to play the game. Yeah, you can definitely fail forward in this game. Like Banner Saga, yeah. Next up. Number 12 is an expression of pain. It's Disco Elysium. I first played the earlier version of the game before it had full voice acting, and I was already getting hit pretty hard by the writing. Revachol and its surrounding world were very compelling, every interaction with an object or person punctuated by Lenville Brown's incredible voice, soaking in every detail in the narration and relishing every encounter with the idiot voices in my head vying for control. The system of stats and the way it interacts with the game and the manner in which it affects your experience are nothing short of brilliant. Every player's experience will be different regarding their Harry's psychological profile, and will affect the amount of information available to them and the choices they'll be able to make. Definitely the kind of game you could play a few times and still not see everything. I think one of the things that's really special to me about Disco is the unusually calm feeling I get when playing it, despite the subject matter. The setting is as bleak as you can get, but there is a beauty that I can't articulate in each interaction, each person trying to live their lives one day at a time, one conversation at a time, one decision at a time. Sometimes that decision is figuring out whether or not you can break down a door. Sometimes that decision is whether or not you can skip out on paying your hotel bill. Sometimes failure is just as helpful as success, though it's usually really embarrassing either way. Just like real life. Kuno doesn't fucking care.
And sometimes you can shoot a child.
Sometimes you can shoot a child. Can you shoot a child? I've never done that.
You can actually shoot Kuno.
You can actually shoot Kuno, and then the game ends, I assume.
Yeah.
Because you shot a child, yeah.
I was half expecting you to do an entire bit where you were also just going to do an entire, do
the entire thing as yeah, no, I can't. Sorry.
You just stare at the monitor in front of you, the glistening, vibrating.
Drama
images.
check. Failure. You cannot imitate Lenville Brown.
Savoir-faire has failed. You're going to have to close your stream.
Oh no, I started jerking off on stream. What happened? Well, electrochemistry, why? Oh no!
The camera was on.
Ah, the camera I don't even have. Weirdly calm despite this. I've been playing this again recently, and I just did the church part, and I think it's one of my favorite quests.
Mm-hmm.
Everything with the fucking church is so great.
every time I play this, I see someone do something I haven't seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, the crab man. What the fuck is that? That guy's just up there.
Yeah, and it also has like one of the best sidekicks in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is brilliant, and he's a ton of fun.
He actually affects my decisions in the sense that I don't want to disappoint him. I will actually go a little away from him. I will turn away from him, knowing it does nothing, to smoke my cigarette and drink my beer and snort my Parolodon or whatever I do.
Man with the patience of a saint.
Yeah. This game made me sad in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that ending's that's a like, I would say like the final like confrontation you get is both very like one of the best like summations of everything you've done in a game, but also like the conversation right before that is like, oh, there's no way you can win this encounter.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's definitely a picture into someone who's just completely broken and needs to like pick up the pieces in his life.
Yep. Absolutely. No, I love that aspect of the game where every time it goes into Harry's character and memory, and it's just like, oh, this is where all his pain comes from. And it's like, well, okay, you can understand that. It doesn't excuse any of the things he's done, but you can understand where it came from. You can understand his stupid motivations.
Yeah, you can use the psychotic break to either make him a better person or, just a worse person. And it all
I don't
makes
want
sense
it to get better. I want it to get worse. Next up. Or anything else? I think I'm...
I just like the idea that you can also just think about the idea of gay people and you just conclude, I think I might be gay.
Yeah. It's like, oh. Yeah, that might be me. I don't know. I'm not going to think too hard about it, but yeah. Next up, the most heterosexual game of all time. Number 11, I beg of you, please enter the bet race. It's FZero GX for the Nintendo GameCube. My favorite racing game of all time, more so than any Mario Kart, and the best sense of speed I've ever felt in the video game. F-Zero has always been about breakneck speeds and impossible maneuvers, but more than ever it feels like you're actually going 1,000 kilometers per hour and flying off the track into oblivion. The tiniest pilot error will absolutely kill you in this game, and you only have so many lives available to you in a Grand Prix. The boost system has always been a fun, high-skill ceiling addition to the series. On the first lap, you can't boost manually, you have to hit boost pads. Upon completing the first lap, you get boost power, and you can spend your life bar to boost yourself. Obviously a tricky risk-reward situation here that rewards bold plays and tight reflexes. Even riskier is the prospect of going on the offensive and trying to shunt a character into the wall, killing them nearly instantly. Each character you take out gets no points for that race and gives you a little life back, but missing slows you down. The Grand Prix mode in this game is fun and all, but honestly the thing that puts this game over the top for me is the story mode, where Captain Falcon has his giant goofball adventure with a bunch of costume goofballs. It's incredibly fun and silly, and nearly every chapter is going to give you at least a bit of trouble because of how tough these missions are. The second one is where it gets painfully tough, having to 1v1 Samurai Goro on a narrow track, with boulders raining down on your head. Amongst all this is some laughably good bad voice acting, an incredible soundtrack, and some of the nicest looking graphics on the GameCube. You should enter the bet race.
Yeah, got to play this at MAG. It was fantastic.
It's so good. The sense of speed is second to none.
Yeah. Also, if you're with a buddy, it's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. Same engine as Super Monkey Ball. I believe it, yeah. It's Sega. Sega did this game, I think. Right?
Did they? I never knew that.
I think Sega published it? Or Sega had something to do with this game.
Was there an arcade version of this? I assume. What was the one we played in that?
Yes, AX.
Yeah, okay.
F-Zero AX is the arcade version of this game. It was Sega and Amusement Visions, aka the Yakuza devs. Thank you. Why isn't this game in Yakuza 8?
One day.
Someday. When GameCube is retro. Yeah, just look at all the racers in this game and that GIF. That's one of the story mode cutscenes. You've got Fox McCloud's dad. You've got Mr. EAD. which is like a HAL laboratory mascot, low-key. You got the Samurai Goro, you got all those characters, you have a living skeleton, you have Bio Rex, who is just a lizard man. It will be in the Pirate Yakuza source, trust me, bro. There you go. There you go. But also, look at all the characters in this game, just from the machines. I forgot that I put the fucking car select down there. Yeah, there's so many choices. What a game.
What a game. So...
Number 10 is Love. Embrace number 10. Is Legend of Mana for the PS1, and eventually Steam. One of the most inscrutable games I've played that also manages to be the most interesting. Legend of Mana is the 4th game in the franchise and a massive step up in the audio and visual quality, which the series was already pretty well loved for. Yoko Shimomura does the soundtrack and it's one of my favorites. Even the arranged album is real pleasant to listen to, and the hand-painted art is incredibly striking. Games didn't look like this when Legend came out in 1999. This was totally new to my eyeballs. Legend is overall a very fragmented mess of systems that kind of clumsily stitch together. Some of them work better than others, and some are pretty fun to play with, but most are pretty difficult to get the hang of. There's definitely a learning curve between smithing and instrument crafting and monster ranching and golem construction and gardening. All of those have their own segments of the game you can interact with, but honestly, you don't need to in order to beat the game. What you will interact with are the 8 types of weapons, 2 swappable slots for movement tech, and 4 swappable slots for big moves or spells. The combat is pretty... okay? It feels a bit stiff compared to other Mana games, and that kind of sucks, honestly, but you can do cool stuff if you know what you're doing, or if you experiment a lot. You don't have to be great at the combat to succeed most of the time, because it's just not that difficult. Okay, so I have a lot of criticisms about Legend of Mana. Why did it get so far up my list?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
It's really a strange experience you just don't see in many games. The story is just a bunch of tiny quests you do for various inhabitants of Fadiel, each one punctuated by a slow "the end" screen and putting you back in your bed at home. Now with each quest, the mana tree image on the world map gets gradually bigger. You start to notice some quest lines being bigger than just one quest, and in particular, there are 3 main stories in Legend of Mana. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. There are 3 main stories in Legend of varying degrees of interesting and oddly translated. The remaster definitely polished up all the translation in particular, which it sorely needed. But when you boil it down, the 3 stories are about different types of love. You've got your social, your romantic, your familial love. The game makes a lot more sense when you look at it through that lens, in my opinion. Thanks, Highwang, for that interpretation. You have to finish one of the 3 plot lines to get the mana tree to appear, where you can, I suppose, challenge the goddess to a fight and show her what you've learned. I still don't think I'm selling this game too well. It's definitely not for everyone. It has a lot of jank that you'll either enjoy or hate. I think this is one of those games that are just greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it showing up in your number 10 just means, like, you particularly like what it was going for, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, like, a cohesive whole. It's just,
No,
like...
but I'm gonna keep the joke going as long as I can. Look, it's extremely charming when it isn't annoying you with mechanical stuff or knowing where to go to set off a particular quest. It's definitely the kind of game you might want a game facts guide for, but I would recommend it nonetheless.
Like, when you think about this game, what comes to your mind?
The soundtrack and the visual style, definitely. Like, that is worth the price of admission for me.
Do you like side quests? You love this game. Yeah, I believe it. It's all side quests.
It's all side quests.
Yeah, it's a unique, and I don't think you gotta experiment before you can, like...
Yeah, you gotta mess with it.
Yeah.
What a soundtrack. One of my absolute favorites. It's up there, like, maybe number 10 for the game, but the soundtrack might be number 3. Next up, getting into the final 10. Here's something that might surprise you a bit. Sliding you a drink across the bar is number 9, The Red Strings Club by Deconstruct Team. It describes itself on Steam as a cyberpunk narrative about fate and happiness, and that's kind of accurate. Strings really tries to tackle some difficult questions. On the surface, that's mostly about transhumanism and modifying our bodies and minds using technology to suit our needs or wants. Things are pretty advanced in this society. If you're rich or powerful enough, you can do things like filter out negative thoughts or impulses or remove emotions entirely you don't want to feel. Of course, when you encounter a set of CEOs requesting procedures and see their desires, you realize humanity never really changes. People really want their brains to run faster, have more sex appeal, the usual shit. But these concepts give way to a lot more deeper, more fundamental questions like what happiness even is, or what it means to you, or free will, things like that. The story takes place mostly in the Red Strings Club, a high-class but sparsely patronized bar run by Donovan. Donovan has a disability that keeps him confined to the bar, but he believes he has the power to get them to tell him their secrets. And that's kind of true. Through the power of perfectly mixed drinks, Donovan can manipulate his patrons' emotions, allowing them to open up in different ways and get more information out of them. Now, the framework for this gameplay is real compelling to me. The story begins when an AI-powered robot busts through the doors of the club late one night, half broken, sparking on the floor. Donovan's Shadowrunner hacker boyfriend is there at the time and jacks into the robot to see its memories. You learn that the robot is from one of the big mega corporations and it has designs to hijack the cyberware that most of the population uses in order to manipulate people's emotions. Now, I won't spoil exactly what their plans are because it's a big part of the game, but I immediately found the moral and ethical conflicts fascinating and wanted to see it through to the end. Using the robot known as Akara to fight against Supercontinent Limited, you begin to entertain a string of high-profile guests from said company at your bar. Your goal is to gain as much information as possible in a short period of time so your hacker boyfriend Brandeis can infiltrate Supercontinent and stop their plans. It's a deconstruct team game, of Gods Will Be Watching fame, but they've gutted out all the game overs. In this one, you fail forward, and I think that makes for a much smoother, more interesting experience. I honestly wish more people gave this game a shot. It's not very long, it gives you some things to think about, as well as some great characters and compelling writing. The soundtrack by Fingerspit is also amazing, I listen to it from time to time. You can get it for a few bucks on Steam on sale.
Yeah, this does seem like one of those games you play in an evening and just let it sit.
It's a little long for an evening, but I'd say 2 evenings. It's dense is the thing.
I mean... It's one of those games I feel like you just appreciate the more it just lingers in your head.
Yeah. There's some secret things I've never seen, too. There's apparently, like, one of the characters cannot drink tequila, but there is a way to get him to drink tequila. Not in the way that not in the way that, like, kills him, but, like, you, like, manipulate the mechanics of the game to give him something that is almost tequila. It's weird. And it's like, yeah, that's a secret drink that unlocks different emotions and gets you different responses to questions.
Yeah. I know at the time, I was just hearing stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, that seems weird. But, like, I've since heard that what they claimed was happening was actually not happening in regards to certain stuff. So now I would definitely want to give it a shot.
I would say give it a shot. It's a very interesting game. Next up. Number 8 was a true patriot. It's the Metal Gear Solid series, but for me, it's really Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. There are moments in 4 I really like, but the first 3 are where my Solid Snake muscle memory comes from. I can't tell you how many times I played the demo of MGS that I had, which lasted until you enter Shadow Moses from the ventilation ducts. So the first couple of screens, really, no boss fights or major story beats. Finally renting the full game and playing it felt transcendent in some way, like I was playing something really new and exciting and bold for the first time. From the big-budget cutscenes with iconic voice acting to the bizarre, wobbly, whooshing camera work that got even more amped up in Twin Snakes, I don't know if the world was entirely ready for Hideo Kojima, but we liked it anyway. I felt like a bewildered child trying to understand MGS2 in middle school, with my best friend who got it right as it came out. I think one thing that really solidified MGS's place on this list was how many times I played each game. Now, I lost count of my runs of MGS2 Sons of Liberty, between trying to get all the dog tags, between trying to beat Extreme Mode. I did, but at a great cost to my personal time, which I did not value as a teenager. I'd love to be able to play these games again without emulating them, since that's not always an easy option, but it's honestly been a minute. These were titles that really benefited from multiple runs because the amount of content and extra stuff was always more than you can imagine in every corner of the game. Just take the CQC maneuvers in MGSC, for example. The variety of actions you can do when just walking up to a dude and grabbing him are immense. Are you doing a chokehold, or are we slamming him into the ground to stun him? Are we interrogating him or assassinating him? It's a delicate control system that manages to work, but it's still easy to screw up unless you practice a good amount. Now, with military precision, you could say. I think it's more than a little ironic that the MGS games have mostly been swallowed up in a deluge of digital content in an age it pretty much predicted at MGS2. I don't really know what to expect of the series or Kojima going forward, since I'm really not interested in Death Stranding that much. And that's the end of that sentence, and paragraph, and write-up. Because you know what? When it comes to MGS, there is nothing more to say about it. There's nothing more. It's over. It's done.
How much of a debate was there to pick like one in like from the series, but you just went like, ah, fuck it, and put the entire thing on there?
Well, it took up too many spaces.
Right.
Couldn't happen. But it needed to be up there. Because, man, did this game occupy my consciousness along with, like, Silent Hill and Final Fantasy VII when it was, when that was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I'd assume, like, 4 and 5 might not make it as high as, like, certain other ones. But, like, as a whole, yeah, probably.
The franchise as a whole is really kind of special. You don't really see just nothing else like it. Nobody quite does it like Kojima.
No one has two old men fighting on top of a giant ship, yeah.
For better or for worse, and then one smooches the other, and then everyone goes, "Wait, why did he do that? Why? What?"
Yeah, it really is the most gayest video game that's actually not written by a gay person.
As the fucking theme song hits its apex.
Yeah.
Really, the realization that, wow, Metal Gear is really gay, huh?
It took people several years to find this out.
Next up. Number 7 is not the final one. It's the Final Fantasy series. Yes, all of them, fuck you. I started playing this with the very first one on the NES. I had no idea what I was doing past Garland. The game wasn't very easy to play for a child who could barely read. Things changed in the SNES years, though, not much later when I got my hands on rental copies of FF4 and FF6 and started parsing what the games are actually asking of the player. I started to understand physical versus magic, equipping things to boost stats, item and MP consumption, and how to survive a long dungeon or boss fight. Excuse me. You can definitely say this about certain FF games, if not most of them, but there's a lot of ways to spec yourself to gain advantages and immunities in battle. By the end of my first complete run of FF6, I was setting the air on fire to heal my party, and deal damage while breaking holy rods on everything that didn't absorb it. Somehow it mostly worked. An endless amount of nostalgia points for being the series to get me into modern role-playing games, an interest that carries over to this day. Final Fantasy is where most people's minds go to when talking about RPGs. Having that basis in the SNES era got me even more into the PSX games when they started coming out. FF7 felt like a complete revolution in technology that we saw used in games up to that point. You definitely had to be there to get what I'm saying, but if you don't believe me, look at the lingering hype from FF7 Rebirth despite all its issues. It's a franchise that somehow still has legs despite a history of lackluster spin-off titles. Regardless of where the series is going, I am always going to be a fan of Final Fantasy and its many installments. It seems to be constantly in a place of identity crisis, but that's kind of the fun part about it. You never really know where it's going to go next. Sometimes retro, sometimes modern, sometimes a bizarre third thing you didn't expect. Sometimes Fiesta.
It is impossible. Like, you'll always get new fans of Final Fantasy because they're so wildly different from each other.
Yeah, like it is such a genre-spanning franchise that goes so many different places. You can, like, containing it in a single PowerPoint card is kind of criminal. And I should be whipped for suggesting such a thing. Attempting such a thing.
There's, like, what, 5, like, of the greatest video games ever made in, like, one series? I don't know how you could...
Yeah, it's kind of up there. There's also, somehow they crossed over with Disney. They have a rhythm game. They have a racing game. They made Asura's Wrath apparently with 16.
Eventually we'll play 16. I
didn't play it yet. I haven't played it yet. But
That and 11 are the only things I still have left to do.
yeah.
Yeah. And 14 you can play with friends. And
14
it's
you
still-
can play pretty much forever almost.
Yeah. And it's still one of the best written Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, it's pretty up there as far as plots go. It's really good.
It really is impossible to choose a best one out of the.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's
you
why
could.
it's why I couldn't put enough GIFs on this screen.
It's like I can hear an argument for every entry being the best one, and it would probably be true.
8 easy. Yeah, there you go.
love 8.
Triple triad. Fucking
Yeah.
love 8. That's why 8 is on there, represented by the Cactuar summon. That's the 8's Cactuar summon, and it's so good.
Mhm.
Next up. Let's go further back. Number 6 is permanently stuck in frog suit mode. It's Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. One of the most formative and influential platformers of all time. The culture around SMB3 was ubiquitous and absolute when it came out. Hype was already huge following several Mario games, and 3 promised a bunch of strange new mechanics to get into, like interchangeable suits and flight and a world map to explore and find secrets on. As the highest platformer / Mario game on this list, this game was very much the backbone of my childhood. I can't tell you how many times I played through this game with a variety of Game Genie codes just to liven things up. I think what really made SMB3 special was the amount of new content and unexpected things in this game. Hear a weird rumor about getting all the coins in a certain stage? Find a special suit with hidden invincibility input? Wonder at the mysteries of the Karibo shoe! Let's not forget how everyone knew how to find both warp whistles in the first world. Absolutely jam-packed with cool stuff to explore and secrets to find. It pretty much set the template for a lot of Mario games going forward, and it was also the first game with the 7 Koopa kids. That's Mario, I know him.
Yeah, I'm just taking it back at the fact that this game is 7 years older than me.
Yeah, this game, I'm only 2 years older than this game.
You know, you really can't. When something's a classic, you're gonna be hearing about it for years.
You can't get away from it. Wait a minute. Wait, what is this? Wait, this GIF. What happened in this GIF?
I thought this was something that
I did not.
Like
I did not read this GIF all the way through. Apparently,
so you did not see them glitching out into the world. How did you miss that?
Okay, sure, yeah. More secrets.
And you can always break the games in ways you'll never understand.
I didn't know about this. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, I thought it was on purpose, like the Juker says.
All right. Next up, you know what we haven't seen yet that we really should? It may be a little bit of a surprise being at number 5, but number 5 will repay your debt in blood and lead and death. It's Live Alive, the remake edition. This game had a great reputation before it was even remade, the original SNES game being a really brave foray into a bunch of short period stories, each one culminating in a big boss battle in the great song Megalomania, which has a pretty storied place in VG music history. In fact, this is yet another one of Yoko Shimomura's soundtracks, a really standout one that has to cover a lot of different genres. Live Alive is great largely because of its pacing, I think. I think it's really expertly done for like 9/10 of the game. You explore in an order of your choosing 7 different short campaigns taking place in different time periods, each with its own character, soundtrack, art, and story. Of course, when you finish those stories, the game is not over. You unlock the 8th final story that concludes the saga. I think there's a couple of mechanical missteps in the final chapter, most notably having a pretty high degree of random encounters that are hard to escape from and impossible to avoid. Most of the game has encounter design with enemies appearing on the map in some kind of way, so it largely doesn't have this problem, but Chapter 8 on drags as a result. That said, the campaigns are all different from one another, each unique in some way, each asking some different things of the player, and that variety really keeps the player engaged throughout. I can't articulate how perfectly done the Western chapter is. There's only like 4 or 5 fights, and it's not even a couple of hours long, but the pacing is perfect and the story told with every possible nod to this kind of source material you expect. You know, old Western movies. Same goes for the future chapter, which very much goes for an Alien/Event Horizon kind of thing, and it really succeeds in my opinion. The source material is very much on display while having the characters and stories go in their own sort of direction, ending in a cross-dimensional struggle between the concepts of good and evil. It was satisfying as an RPG in ways I didn't think was possible, while also removing some of the more prolific aspects of a JRPG, like world maps and air travel and huge campaigns. All of that has been compressed into 8 bite-sized chunks that go down real well. And that's really why it's on this list at number 5. It was satisfying beyond what a lot of retro games did for me. It's going to come back in at full volume. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. It somehow preserved and honored the nostalgia of the past while giving me a new experience I wasn't expecting. An entirely new kind of RPG with a unique battle system that hasn't really been done quite as well anywhere else. I really think everyone should give this game a shot because I can't stop saying good things about it. I haven't mentioned it has some of the best voice performances I've heard in the game, especially for a sprite-based RPG like this. The HD 2D treatment is really great as well here. I think it's the best example of that aesthetic so far, even if I don't really understand what makes something HD 2D in the first place. Give it a shot on your console of choice. It's on all the modern ones.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably didn't pick it up because they played the original, like the translated one.
And that's great and all, but man, this is the biggest glow up I've ever seen a game get.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a series, which, Octopath, like, based off of it, you might as well backport the engine to this game.
Yeah.
And it was a great decision. Look at it. It's pretty.
It looks really good.
Oh, Cube's chapter inspired a lot of RPG Maker and horror games. I can see it.
I bet, yeah. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, retro achievements as well. They have achievements.
Oh, boy.
Someone is losing their mind at that factoid. I don't know about you.
Won't be me, that's for sure. Next up. Wow, you've done it! In number 4, which is Star Tropics for the NES. The Western-only game that evokes a lot of Zelda vibes, only with an Americanized South Pacific feel, given that you follow a high school teen from Seattle on vacation. He's visiting his uncle researching the islands. That's a long sentence, but basically Star Tropics is half map puzzle exploration, half puzzle action difficulty challenge. It has a bit of reputation for being difficult, as well as having some famous copy protection, in the form of an in-universe letter you get to physically dip in water to reveal a secret code. As a young kid, this was the coolest thing I had ever seen in the world thus far. Mike Jones is the perfect 80s hip teen protagonist, and while the game isn't as Bill and Ted as its time-traveling sequel, the vibes are still kinda there. Mike needs to find his uncle who's been kidnapped by aliens for uncovering some kind of secret in the islands. I actually find this plot kinda cool, especially considering where it goes. It was neat for the time. The gameplay is also pretty memorable given that you will be dying and redoing stages a lot. It's a top-down perspective much like the original Zelda with a very familiar-looking UI. You can move in 4 directions and actually jump at ledges onto blocks or over single tiles of water. Blocks can sometimes contain switches or other secrets, so you tend to want to jump on all of them to be sure, because rooms tend to have multiple secrets in them at once. This is a game that rewards risk-taking and sometimes completely suicidal behavior, earning its reputation as a hard-ass Nintendo game from back in the day. It doesn't always make sense, and it's not always fair, but it is funny in the ways it will punch you in the gut. Wow, you've done it, you'll say as you launch yourself into a death pit, dying instantly. Good times.
Fascinating. Also, for the person in chat asking that was copy protection, anytime they ask you to look at something physical, it's usually copy protection.
It's not how I thought of it, and I encountered it several times as a kid, but I never thought of it as copy protection. But yeah, that's what that is.
If you're looking at the back of the box from Metal Gear Solid, that was copy protection.
That was copy protection. There's the. I forgot. I put the letter right there. I forgot all the slides because I did this like 6 months ago.
Yeah. No, I've only known this game for that letter.
Yeah,
I've known nothing else about this.
It's a fun game. It's hard, but it's fun.
I mean, yeah, NES game being hard.
Whoa, wild.
Who could have guessed?
It's Radicola.
Yeah. Also, they did from what I hear, they do fun stuff when emulating this, where you have to like dunk in like a JPEG file or something.
Yeah, on NSO, I think.
Yeah. So I'm glad at least they kept the spirit alive.
Yeah, that's very smart of them to do.
One I would like to give a shot at some point.
Yeah, that would be a fun stream.
Would it be? Is it like how easy is it to like as a blind playthrough?
Oh, it's hard.
Okay.
It would be very fun as a blind playthrough. Next up, number 3 Number 3 can't even envision the final collapse of capitalism. It's Earthbound for the SNES. It's your favorite quirky suburban RPG, before that became a thing people got tired of, or pretended to get tired of. Frankly, I don't think the critique is valid, so I don't care. This game hit me at the age of like 7 or 8, just old enough to read all the text in the game and understand it, just old enough to process things like inventory management and equipment. I couldn't get enough of it. The dialogue was hilarious, the music unique and iconic, and the game took place in what felt like my own backyard. It was the kind of adventure I always wanted, subverting the medieval trappings of games like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. Not only that, but it came with an incredibly compelling game manual / strategy guide, even when I rented it, that I read from cover to cover as much as I could. It basically read like a travel guide for all the towns you were going to visit, and it managed to be informative while remaining thematically intact. You all know it. Earthbound tells the story of Ness, an all-American boy who lives in a normal American life, until a meteorite crashes on the hilltop near his house. When he investigates, he receives a prophecy that he and 3 other allies must defeat Gigas, an alien that is invading Earth. Along the way, Ness will meet 3 new friends and learn psychic powers and go on a globe-spanning adventure to every corner of the Earth. Your goal is to collect 8 parts of a melody that the Earth will recognize, granting Ness the power to beat Gigas. There's a bit more to it than all that, but I don't want to spoil everything. I really think this is a game that mostly holds up, aside from the small size of inventory. You also spend a bit of time as solo Ness in this game, and that kinda sucks. But the game gets markedly easier the second you find your second character after some tricky dungeons. I can't really articulate the hold this game had on me when I was a kid. Like, I introduced my friends to it at the time. They all got pretty attached to it. I can't remember the context, but I do recall my friend Adam just going, I can't explain it, but I just like Earthbound. I just like this game. And I had to agree. Each town was a new place to explore. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I kind of figured just because, like, with Mother 3 being, like, 17, it's like, okay, either Earthbound is way higher, or, like, there's gonna be fighting words. I don't know. But, like, it's impossible to, like, just quantify the, how much this game has influenced. Like, people still make mods for this.
Yep. They're still working on it. They're still playing it. People are still enjoying this game. Like, just every new town is a new place to explore. There's new NPCs with new dialogue. There's new weird enemies and a new weird story to experience everywhere you go. It manages to stay interesting and fresh without having an incredibly detailed linear plot. And honestly, it seems to coast a lot of the time on vibes. I kinda like that sometimes. Earthbound's impact on RPGs is just massive. For better or worse, you cannot make a modern RPG these days without having that insufferable conversation or comment on the quirky Earthbound-inspired RPG about depression. Replace Undertale with Earthbound for the other half of RPGs that get made today. If I sound a bit cynical, it's because other people's attitudes about this genre have gotten real myopic over time, a real narrow view on what these games are and what they mean to people. I may regret using the term Earthbound-like, but I don't regret a lot of the experiences I've had in that genre. It continues to be something I'm interested in.
I mean, it's impossible, because, like, every game that it's inspired it, right, goes on to inspire other games. Like...
TLDR, eat shit?
Pretty much. Like, if we're talking about, like, how, the Cube section of, like, Live Alive inspired a lot, this game inspired so much more.
This is a very big starting point for a lot of people's video game experiences.
Yeah, and even when you play it, it does stuff that no other thing has done.
Yeah, it makes you wait 3 minutes for no reason.
Exactly. You know, there's an entire... God, I think it was moles, right? Where they go up to you, it's like, oh, I'm the 4th best mole.
Yeah, they're all the 3rd strongest mole. Yeah,
the 3rd strongest mole.
That's an amazing joke, because you're frantically searching these mines, and it's like, I don't care what you think you are. I just want to kill you all.
You know, you might have gotten me, but my brother,
he's 3rd strongest. So are you! Oh, what a good game. Yeah. Well, we've only got 2 games left. I think you know what they are. It's pretty obvious what they are. So I'm just gonna go for it. One could wonder. You know they did their best in number 2. It's Jimmy and The Pulsating Mass by Casey Azami. One of the most ambitious RPG Maker games I've played. Jimmy tells the story of 8-year-old Jimmy and his family, but entirely from the perspective of Jimmy's dreams. It starts off pretty normal as far as dreams go. Jimmy is asked to get some honey from the giant bee kingdom to the southwest. Things quickly go south in Jimbo's subconscious as he begins to start hearing about the Pulsating Mass, an entity that is threatening his life. As you journey deeper into Jimmy's mind and encounter the various forms of the Pulsating Mass, you get to know his family bit by bit. I have to say the character writing is great in this game. It's substantial, there's a lot to learn about each of the main characters and a lot of cool secrets to find. There are no less than 20 bonus dungeons in the game, and I just pulled that number out of my ass, each with its own theming and enemies and gimmicks and all kinds of fun stuff. I don't want to spoil. One of the reasons Jimmy is number 2 on this list is because the sense of discovery when you stumble on a completely new dungeon is both elating and terrifying. What fear is Jimmy going to have to confront next, you wonder? And that's another aspect of why this game's writing is so strong. It writes an 8-year-old exactly as you would expect, containing boundless curiosity as well as a sense of absolute terror for the unknown. You may not ever see Jimmy in the waking world, but you can read the entire story from the game's events. By the end, you know exactly what Jimmy's life is like, what he likes, what he hates, what he's afraid of, who he's afraid of, and why. And most importantly, you know what the Pulsating Mass is, because once you realize this, the rest of the story snaps into place, whether you like it or not. I don't think I need to say too much more about this game because I've already praised a lot of it in the past, but one of the songs in the game is called Gut Punch, and that's a great title to describe Jimmy. It manages to be one of the most emotionally charged and meaningful games I've played with a ton of impactful moments. The writing shines throughout, it never lets up. It's absolutely my second favorite game of all time, and probably one of the best RPGs ever made.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how one of those impactful moments was like a comedic one, and it took me the fuck out.
Yeah, I know exactly what moment you're talking about, and it's going to take you the fuck out every time. It's one of my favorite moments in the game. I absolutely do not want to spoil it. The Juker needs to play this game. Don't spoil anything.
Jimmy's great. The only criticism of it is that there's too much of it, which is insane.
Yeah.
But what can you?
Yeah, that is a valid criticism, you could say. If you do not want a 60-hour game, maybe you don't need Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass.
But yeah, like a 60-hour game made by one person that's still like
somehow cohesive throughout the whole thing, and consistent and fun throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and there's like boss fights in this that I'm like, they had me thinking on the same level as like an SMT game, where I'm like, okay,
yeah,
they clearly have there's a way to get through this, and I just need to figure it out.
Pretty sure the only thing I saw when you streamed it on release is the imaginary numbers. Yeah, the one of the most bullshit fights in that game, but it's supposed to be because it's math, and fuck math. Even if you're good at math, you still think fuck math.
Also, next point, Punch Tanaka.
Punch Tanaka. It has Punch Tanaka.
Yeah. That's all you need to say. The game already deserves to be here for Punch Tanaka.
So I thank you for your commitment. I didn't pledge quite as much, but I definitely put in a bit of money, as much as I could. Shadow Sandbag, thank you for that sub.
The Void Punch.
Thank you.
Johnny Knives.
And Johnny Knives. The petty thugs are just incredible. Their characterization is so funny.
Several moments. There are a few games that make me like laugh out loud. I think they've done that like 5 times.
Yeah, I know one of them at least.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I definitely got the. I think I threw in for the art book. That was my tier for Earless Gods. I was definitely in on that. I wanted the art book, and I want that game to get made, and it will.
Yeah, it got funded.
Hell yeah. All right, folks. It's time.
Yay, Omori,
time.
Isn't it?
It's time for my favorite game of all time. That's right, Bad Rats. That's right.
Yeah, Bad Rats 2.
Bad Rats 2. By process of elimination. I suppose this isn't going to be much of a surprise. The game where dudes rock. The game where dudes really suck. My favorite game of all time can only be Lisa. The Painful Edition. Sorry, the Painful RPG. The Definitive Edition by Ding-a-Ling Productions and published by Serenity Forge. I've definitely talked about it a lot about this game over the years, but Definitive Edition is still a bit fresh, so I'd like to mostly focus on that. For as great as the original game is, it needed a bit more subtext for the people in the back. A few too many people may have idolized Brad as a character in his quest for redemption, enough that they missed the finer points of the story, and I think the campfire conversations for each character are some of the more substantial changes in Definitive Edition. They really flesh out some of the characters that were more one note in the original. In particular, Terry and Queen Rogers' conversations really hit home how emotionally stunted Brad is as a result of his upbringing. But even bigger than that, even more glaring and obvious, is the hidden super boss that was added into Definitive Edition. The harrowing, 2-hour-plus event that actually makes you feel kinda ill, to its own thematic reinforcement. Fighting Marty's dream in Brad's mind is the biggest gameplay challenge in Lisa, in every way you can imagine. The imagery is uncomfortable, the sounds are shrill and piercing, the gameplay is brutally against you, but you can win. You can persevere. You can actually guide Brad Armstrong through his trauma in this super boss and have him relive his final conversation with Lisa. A conversation where Lisa isn't referred to as some locked up monster or haunting specter, and is viewed as a human being by Brad and the player for the first time. That is the catharsis that Brad more or less needed, even if it doesn't change how the game ultimately ends.
I just like the idea of this being your comfort game.
Yeah, this is my comfort game. This is the comfort place for me. Oh, that's gore of my comfort character. Oh no! No!
That super boss is kind of one of the most mechanically interesting things I've seen in a while.
I know, it really is. Seeing Brad's fight against Marty's memory solidified a couple things for me. Namely that Marty is a chauvinistic piece of shit that associates masculinity with power. Now, I know that's kind of obvious, but you see it directly in his dialogue, his horror at the idea that Lisa put makeup on him once, the taboo of breaking gender rules. So of course we had to talk about this specifically. Of course we had to rip that massive band-aid off, because you look at monsters and see masculinity. Of course you don't get it. Because in pursuing the ideal of masculinity, you become a monster, and that is the fate of so many characters in Lisa, and probably the closest thing it has to a thesis statement. I'm not good at identifying these things, but when people take the funny drug that makes their pain go away, and then become bottomless pools of hate and violence, first mentally, then physically, I gotta say even I can see the symbolism here, and I'm dumb as shit. There's nothing else for me to say other than, men, we have got to do better at handling our emotions, and yeah, that goes for me as well. Thank you, Ding-a-Ling, for adding these real important footnotes to your game. Thank you for getting me to fall in love with Olathe, Kansas again, to step on all the rakes again, to take the drugs and become a horrible monster, yet again. I will not stop doing it anytime soon. This is my favorite game of all time.
Yep. I doubt anyone would have thought otherwise.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise. How many years have you played this game?
Since 2014.
So, 11 years.
Yeah, it's been going for a while. Thank you, Joker. I appreciate it. I still get people telling me, like, oh, I watched your Earthbound likes video the other day. I'm like, thank you. That's great. I still like that video.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's one of the first things from you I watched.
I might underestimate my ability to interpret text, yes. I don't think my media literacy is all that great, but I get vibes. Alright. Thank you everyone for watching. It was somehow hell to put together my thoughts on 100 different games and also put them in a discernible order, and also do a PowerPoint, but we got there half a year later.
Yay!
Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe you can do this every year.
Maybe we'll do this every year. I'll update the list and redo the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be more games, thankfully.
There's always more games. I gotta pee really bad.
And that'll be the last thing on the recording.
That'll be the last thing on the recording.